end up doing what you do now? Where did that come from, the idea?
Well, I've wanted to go into law enforcement since I was in 8th grade. I've always just thought that was a neat thing. I don't know that my motives were always the right way, but I wanted to help people. I wanted to get in and just make an impact on my community, and it just seemed that law enforcement was a great way to do that. And so I geared all my education, the friends I picked, the things I did. I tried to keep my nose clean, so to speak, and you know, went to college, got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and then started the hiring process. And even the wife that I married, it was, you know, she was very supportive of the law enforcement role in that. And so, and then of course one thing led to another as I moved up through the ranks, and I've been at this department now for 25 years. And then I decided that, you know, I see other people who are running for sheriff, and I'm thinking I could probably do just as good or better job than they. And so I decided to run for sheriff as an elected office, and here I am.
Are you a Republican?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought from what I saw on the internet. How did you choose that as well?
Well, some of it was probably parental influence, and I guess I've always kind of drifted towards the conservative side of things, mainly because of constitutional values. But I've always been pro-life, not because I disrespect women or anything, but I just believe that you know, all those values just seem to be on the Republican side. Not that in fact, I do a lot of business as sheriff. Like I focus on prisoner reentry, and I partner with a lot of Democrats in that. So it's not like you know, I hate Democrats or anything like that. To the contrary, I work with them you know, and I'm a sheriff for everybody, not just Republicans. So, you know, obviously I can't separate my person from the position, but I'm very, very open to other people's views and being able to work together.
That sounds practical. Yeah. Speaking of, what do you call it? Prison rehabilitation?
Prison reentry.
Reentry. From what I read, you've done a lot with that.
Well, you know, as sheriff, I have no statutory obligation to be concerned with recidivism, which is the term we use for an offender reoffending, or an ex-offender reoffending. And so many sheriffs throughout this nation don't really worry about that. But as a member of this community and as a taxpayer, two things. One, there's public safety. If we have people who come out of prison or jail and they reoffend within a couple of years, and that's called recidivism, and if that increases, then that affects public safety because we're re-victimized all over again.
I see.
So it behooves us in the criminal justice system and me as sheriff to be concerned about that and to try to make a difference in that by through a number of ways, changing hearts and minds. Yeah. And you know, because quite frankly, you can give a person an education, and education is good. Education is part of the puzzle. But I've had a nuclear physicist in jail. You see, so he has a lot of education. So
does he use that for his like crime?
No, he was in here for child support or something like that. But my point is that it's not always education is the solution. It again, it's part of the puzzle, but a large part of it is changing the way people think, changing hearts to mold to a moral and ethical value. And you know, and again, I'm not delusional. We're not going to save the world here, but it's if we can make an impact on even just a few %, then that helps not only our public safety, but it helps the taxpayers in having to fund the incarceration of people that commit crimes.
Yeah, you end up having fewer people in prison
Exactly.
because they aren't starting over again after.
In Elkhart County, Indiana, again, we have about 460 square miles. We have 200,000 people in here. The thing is, we are one of, in Indiana, of all of the 92 counties, we are really one of the highest per capita of sending inmates to prison. Now, I don't know what all that is, if it's good police officers, if it's conservative judges, or you know, a full-time prosecutor. I'm not sure exactly.
Or the economy, does that play?
Well, the economy could have some factor, at least, as
a depressed
it
person
fluctuates.
might decide they don't care about the law or something.
Yeah, that has some impact. But regardless of what the reason behind that is, we have 700 inmates coming back to Elkhart County that are being released every year. So 700 are being released from prison back to this county every year. So if you can imagine that, because that's their home, you know, I mean, that's how many are coming back after they've served their sentence. So if you think about, if we have a 30% recidivism rate, well, within 2 years, that's 210 people that would come back into our system.
Yeah.
So you can see how important that is to try to bring that recidivism rate down, and that affects us locally, it affects us maybe even nationally. So it's one of those things that the pendulum used to swing, that let's throw away the key for everybody, you know, that commits a crime.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And the pendulum seems to be coming back because of financial reasons and practicality. It's not practical to put somebody who is addicted to meth just in prison for 20 years. Let's see what we can do to...
Addicted to meth?
Yeah, I mean, they'll, you know, if they're addicted and they have, they're arrested and put in jail for possession of methamphetamine.
Oh, okay.
Then
I thought math, like mathematics.
No, methamphetamine, and so we call it meth. And
okay.
So if they're addicted to that, then and that's the only thing they've done, well, that's a pretty high felony, and they could be in prison for many years. So wouldn't it seem to be more practical to try to get them some assistance, some help in their addictions, than to just incarcerate somebody? You know, they've made a poor choice, agreed, but that choice becomes a requirement because the addiction is so intense. So maybe helping them off of that addiction. And again, some would suggest, well, they made that choice, you know, they deserve prison. Well,
yeah, they
you
say
know, that's
that
fine
until
and
they
dandy.
get addicted to something.
Yeah, but everybody makes mistakes. Everybody probably deserves at least a second or third chance. And so those are the types of, the pendulum seems to be swinging back towards, let's do what we can in our community to help some of these people either make better choices and empower ex-offenders to come back to the community so they're profitable in the community instead of re-victimizing us all over again. And that's part of what I believe as sheriff, that I want to try to make an impact in our community, is that issue of recidivism. And so we do a number of things inside the jail, things like programs. It's called evidence-based programming, things like thinking for a change, life after incarceration, anger management, parenting classes, career development classes. You know, you might think that you know, everybody knows how to balance a checkbook or create a budget or know how to do a job interview.
Because if you end up in debt, then you might resolve to doing something illegal.
Yeah, and you and I maybe grown up in a culture or a family that that knows how to do some of this stuff, but so many people have other types of upbringings that it's a foreign concept to them. And even spiritual development. We have nearly 1,000 ministry volunteers that are coming into the jail and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ into the jail. And the point of that is to change hearts and minds so that the ex-offender, the inmate, is empowered to, as they come out, they have that spiritual growth that they hopefully can bring with them on the outside and maybe change their course. So that not only...
How's that been working?
Well, it works very well, and it's very well received. It's all voluntary. Nothing is crammed down anybody's throat, and they don't have to go to church services or anything. We have 74 church services a month in the jail.
That's impressive.
And of course, it has to be spread out over the 800 inmates that we have. But it's the type of thing that, you know, they can accept it or not, and we allow, you know, all denominations and you know, people to come in, and it's just it works out very well. You certainly see jailhouse religion, people who fake it, whatever, but you know, that's not for me to decide. That's between them and God. And so it's our, I think, responsibility to give out the spiritual development possibilities, and then they can run with that.